Okay, welcome everyone. I'm Bruce Eckfeldt. I'm your host for the program today. I'm gonna do a little bit of introduction of our topic, of our guests, and then we'll get into our topic and get conversation, get talking here. Our topic today, an interesting one. We've had a lot of interesting prep discussion around it. I've seen a lot of activity on LinkedIn around this. Our topic is where AI and leadership meet, navigating the human side of innovation. And we're going to pull up a couple of different references of things that have happened in the market recently. I know people may have seen the Shopify CEO's mandate. There's been some other cases of companies kind of bringing AI into their really into their businesses, into their employee kind of talent strategy. Laying people off, hiring people back. We've seen some different kind of challenges and kind of strategies people have used. But we really want to get in this topic and kind of see what is going on right now in terms of embracing AI, but also for the kind of the human side of this. Like, what are we seeing in terms of what are companies trying to do, what's working, what's not working, and what do we think is going to be happening in the future? So I'm excited for this. We have two great guests. First up, Tracy Phillips. She's an executive leadership coach and founder of The Innate Coach. She specializes in helping visionary leaders align purpose and impact, guiding through complex transitions, including integration of AI and other technologies. Tracy, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much, Bruce.
It's a pleasure. And Chad Sanderson. Chad is co-founder of he is co-founder and CXO of Deep Human X, as a company focused on helping organizations become AI augmented, human enhanced, and purpose driven. He's a technology and transformation executive, over 25 years of experience, helping companies with transformation, with technology, and really taking a human-centric approach. And obviously, AI is a big part of that now. So with all that, Chad, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Pleasure. So for our audience today, if you're watching this live, if you're on LinkedIn, please drop any questions, comments into the LinkedIn comment section. We'll see those. We'll try to weave those in as we see them. If you're on YouTube, we're also streaming on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, jump over to LinkedIn. I'm not going to be watching the YouTube links or the YouTube comments. But in either case, go ahead. If you're watching the replay, go ahead and drop comments in there. We'll watch those in the coming days and weeks. We'll try to get back to people. So even if you're watching the replay, throw any questions and comments you have on there, and we'll engage. So with all of that, let's get started with kind of a conversation here. Why don't we start with just kind of what is the big question you're asking yourselves, or you find working with clients or work with companies? Kind of what's the core question that's coming up around AI? Like, what are you seeing people grapple with, or where are they starting? Like, what's the initial kind of conversation you seem to be having? Chad, why don't we start with you, and then I'll hear from Tracy.
Yeah, it's interesting. We were kind of talking about this a little bit before we went live. The market as a whole, I would say, is kind of waking up, right, to the realities of what's going on. But when you talk to people that maybe are a little bit more awake, they start asking the questions that are really at the heart of the matter, which is, how do I keep my business and my employees impactful, relevant, needed, and do it in a way that allows us to innovate, right, as we move forward? That's one of the questions, usually after the shock of what could potentially be possible hits. But that's usually the big one that we hear in some form or fashion from people. They want to understand it. It's a lot to understand, and it's a heavy. It can be a heavy lift sometimes to think through it all and put the pieces together. But there's huge opportunity, right, as well, for those that learn how to lean into it the right way, I'd say.
Yeah. Tracy, what are you seeing with the people you're working with?
Well, so it's really, a lot of it is the conversations I'm finding myself in, where it's kind of to what Chad said. It's, gosh, I feel like I need to know more about this in order to know what to do with it in my business and in my leadership. But, one of the things that it's allowing me to do is dig in even harder to what I've been talking about for a while now, which is really getting a hold on your own inner guidance, because we don't really know how to work with tools if we don't know how to work with the tools within, so to speak. And so, I'm actually working on a program right now, HI and AI, right? Learn to master your HI, your human intelligence, which is made of cognitive, emotional, instinctive, and intuitive intelligence. And if we can start to master that and understand how to read the cues and work with all of that, we're going to be able to much more effectively partner with things like AI. I mean, any tools really. I think we've been putting the cart before the horse, where we're always looking out and expecting the outside world to inform us on how to work with this stuff. And this is changing. I mean, Chad will go into this is changing so fast that if we're trying to learn about AI from watching outside, it's already 10 steps ahead by the time we even know what the heck is going on.
Yeah.
So I think that we really need to start to garner more understanding of our own internal systems, so that these other systems are going to make more sense to us. Because I think, quite frankly, AI is very intuitive. It's just we have lost our own intuitive sense internally, and so it doesn't seem intuitive to us. That's kind of the conversations I've been having, which have been a lot of fun.
Yeah. I think certainly clients, conversations I'm having with clients, but also my own kind of use of AI. It's definitely put us in the situation of, getting clear, like, what are we trying to do, right? Like, there is this kind of, you do have to self-reflect. You do have to clarify kind of, okay, what does success really look like? What am I trying to, what's the outcome I really want, right? What's my intention? What's my context? Like, I'm just learning that so much of this is getting clear with our own selves, before we kind of get into the tool. And then also the tool can actually help us with some of that stuff. So sometimes I find engaging with the tool with some of that uncertainty, it's like, I don't know what I'm trying to do. Ask me some questions, or like creating more of this dialogue with it rather than kind of this command and control has been really interesting. I'm curious, Chad, in terms of, as you're working with some of these companies, some of these leaders, like, are there any kind of heuristics or mindset things that you're kind of encouraging them to take to kind of help navigate some of this? I mean, what's the appropriate kind of posture to AI that you find is helpful right now, given where we are with this technology?
That's a really interesting question, right? Because I think it changes. And I would say, I think to Tracy's point, she hit it right on the head, right? This is going to start with the individual. So, be curious is the first one, right? You need to, develop or work on that curiosity and do the exploration. Nobody's going to need to be the deep expert to know exactly how it all works. I mean, heck, some of the developers don't even know how some of this stuff is doing what it's doing. At the end of the day, though, that curiosity and that willingness to be a little uncomfortable sometimes, right? And Tracy mentioned the speed, which we were talking about as well. And I think back, I've done 20 plus years of therapy to try and figure out who the hell I am. And now we're in a space of time where, to be an effective leader, I think you're really going to have to start with yourself, ask the right questions, but be curious. Don't be afraid to lean in. Don't be afraid to be a little bit, experimental with it, because what you'll find out will be a completely different revelation for you than another person interacting with it as well, because it really is about balancing that human and machine exchange, right? To do it in a way that you sense in yourself, hey, this is really interesting. I want to lean in a little bit more. We don't want it to be drudgery. It shouldn't be. We've done enough of drudgery for the past decades in work. This is an opportunity to have some fun with it.
Yeah. Tracy, what are you noticing in terms of kind of mindset or approaches, heuristics that people are using?
Yeah, so, I mean, it is. I agree. It's a great question. So it's really allowed me to talk a lot more about one of my favorite topics, which is partnership. And what does that look like, right? I think, we talk about, we're moving into more of a collaborative space. It's less of this competition. We get to work together. We get to all realize what our true strengths are, so that together we're better, all that stuff. But I don't think we really understand what partnership truly looks like, because if we look at most models of partnership throughout time, they've been codependency models, right? Like let's just get real, And so we've been living in systems of dependency. We create dependency. I mean, think about old school sales. Find their pain point, make them reliant on you. And so we like the idea because it feels natural and it feels expansive and it feels better. But we really don't know how to do it. It's the same as what Chad said about AI. Like, some of the programmers don't even know, like how it does what it does. We get to be curious and almost like new to the world, right? And I know most of us don't remember how it was to be a baby, learning everything new. But now we get to be adults in that stage. And it's humbling, and it requires deep curiosity, right? It requires resiliency, responsibility, and partnership. And these are all areas. Don't get me started on responsibility but I mean, it's challenging us, is my point, to all of these things. And if we want to show up successfully with AI, or just in life in general, it's going to require us to be uncomfortable in these spaces, in order to learn.
Yeah.
That self-awareness is key, right? That self-awareness is a big one, because to the codependent piece, there are reports, studies coming out now, they're calling it the diffusion effect. But individuals that they're watching that over-rotate, that over-rely on the AI, actually have negative consequences to their critical thinking, their ability to think critically, right? So that balance, that getting rid of the codependency, making it a true partnership, is really kind of the sweet spot right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I love this idea of kind of beginner mind, right? Like kind of go back to first principles when you're engaging with it. The other one is there's a lot of these kind of prompts on Instagram and things like that, but these prompts of like, okay, like tell me all the things that you're noticing about me that I probably don't want to hear and things like that, where you're encouraging it to actually force you into kind of reflecting on kind of, okay, based on how you're approaching this and what you're thinking, like these are probably kind of blind spots you have. You probably have some patterns here that may not be helping you. The other one I do is I love talking to it about those issues, saying, okay, well, where am I not asking questions, or where are you not certain, or where do you think you're biased, and like actually starting to kind of understand or explore where some of the edges are, where maybe some of the things that aren't working, rather than just kind of taking it at face value, right? It's like, okay, well, let's poke a little bit at this, it's interesting to see where I've been really surprised how kind of smart it is, or how aware it is of certain things. And then other areas, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like it doesn't have any sense of what this is. And it's fascinating to see where the models, really, really work, and where they're really thin, and then see them change, right? Because obviously they keep coming out with these new models with new data sets. And so it's constantly evolving.
Well, we forget that it is only as good as we are, right? Like it is the inputs that it has been given is what it has to draw off of. And I would love to, I don't want to take over your job here, but so Della asked a really good question. And I actually have some thoughts about that, because I was just on my own podcast and we were talking about the same thing. Yeah. And I think it's not so, okay, and this is my interpretation of it. It's not so much where we shouldn't, it's where do we see that AI, to the point you were just making, it's our responsibility to add the special sauce, not AI. And my podcast partner was talking about humanity, and how he was having this experience going to this new gym, and he pays his monthly, and then their system was doing something strange. And so the lady behind the desk is like, well, I can't give you your card because of the system, so you'll just have to come back tomorrow. He's like, but I'm here today and I want to work out today and I've already paid for my month. So, and she was too reliant on the system that she couldn't make the human decision to say, okay, this may not be protocol or whatever, but you're here. I'm not going to make you go all the way home and then come all the way back tomorrow just until just for our system to be in place. I think that's the piece. And this is what we're figuring out is, I don't think we have if anybody's giving you straight answers about this, I don't think they really know, because everything changes as we go. And I think there's ways that we have to be careful. And I always tell people, when they're trying to read their inner guidance, their inner data, they need to be able to discern between fear-based information and intuition, for example, right? Are we being led to this because of fear? Are we saying this shouldn't because of fear? And sometimes it's just fear of the unknown. We don't know, and we have a fear of not liking the fact that we don't know. Right? But I think that that's really the question we want to be asking, is what roles, are still human based, right? That the humanity part, that I don't know what AI is going to become. I personally think it's already at the potential that it was designed in, because I believe in quantum, right? So I think that we will discover its potential as we develop ourselves. I think that's how it works, is that it already is its entirety what it can do. It's just we will only be able to engage with it in so much as we develop our own understanding.
That's where the caliber of your interaction, the caliber of your thinking, the way you engage with it, that's where the secret sauce kind of lies. Because if you get into that over reliance and you just you start to trust it, you take the human out of the loop, then really all you're going to get is the median of all human knowledge, right? Because that's what it's been trained on. So the innovation leaps, the creativity, those pieces become critical, but also the way you interact with the technology itself. And that Unfortunately, my business partner is the optimist in the business. I have a tendency to be the little ray of pitch darkness. And when we talk about humanity, and I'll talk specifically about behaviors I've seen in business.
Yeah.
As I've worked on these transformation initiatives with these organizations for the past 2 decades, there are unfortunately more what I would consider poor behaviors that are not human-centric, that are 100% self-serving to shareholder value, which I understand is a driver, and less of the human-centric decision-making and optimization. So I have a tendency to be a little bit more skeptical when you look at companies like Mechanized. If anybody isn't familiar with Mechanized, they're a reinforcement learning company whose goal is to fully automate the economy. And what they're doing is picking jobs to 100% automate them out of needing the human in the loop. That's scary for me. I don't know about the rest of you. That kind of makes me a little nervous. The human in the loop, I think, is one of the ways that we keep the humanity in the process.
Yeah. I've certainly found, like, so one thing I've done is it's all voice to text now, right? Like I speak to it and have it take whatever I say and drop into the prompt. So I'm not typing anymore, which is fascinating. Because I think very differently than I write, or I speak very differently than I write. So it's a different kind of model, or a different kind of content that comes out. And 2, it feels much more conversational. Like it feels like I'm actually having a conversation with this tool, and my kind of flow of consciousness. Like I'll at the end of a paragraph, I may contradict myself, and it's amazing how well it can actually take that and determine, okay, I get what you're trying to say. And even in that thread, I think it picks up understanding of where my thinking is and stuff. So I think that's one thing that's really interesting I've noticed in the dynamic. And then this kind of partnering, like I find I'm using it less for, tell me something new, or, I'll certainly do research, but a lot of it is, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Here's my current thinking around it. Here's where I feel confident. Here's where I'm certain. Ask me questions, like work with me to help evolve and kind of incubate ideas and build something together, rather than, here, I need this, go do it, come back to me. So I'm kind of curious where you're seeing, because I know a lot of companies have kind of laid off people, saying, hey, we're gonna automate all these things, we don't need people anymore. And now I think a lot of people are kind of swinging back a little bit. It's like, well, it's more of a collaboration and a tool that we use with people rather than replace people. I'm curious to see what you're seeing around this, and seeing this kind of that dynamic or that mindset around, are we replacing people, or are we enabling people with AI?
I have a tendency to default to the darker side and think that the goal for many is that replacement.
Yeah.
But I think the innovation and the opportunity comes from that effective augmentation, right? Yeah. So for example, there's a company called OpenStream.ai, and they have a neurosymbolic AI. It's not a LLM. The LLMs, we all know, can hallucinate. The neurosymbolic model actually can be set up to not lie. It only can tell you what it really knows and is factual. Okay. But they have created an avatar that will scan your face, measure your micro expressions, interpret that for the AI, and the AI will then change its emotional affect as it works for you. And they're doing work with insurance companies and others, but insurance companies to kind of reallocate the call center resources to other things. Right? Like there's other ways that they can provide value to the business. So there's the ability and the opportunity to find ways to automate some of the drudgery and unlock the innovation that's in your human capital to provide even greater value. Yeah. It just starts with kind of what we were saying earlier, the leadership, their mindset, and maybe some of their internal value systems.
Yeah. Tracy, what are you noticing around this in terms of, augmentation versus replacement?
Yeah, like my question, based on what Chad said a little bit earlier, it's like, I'm wondering if we think that what's going on in some of these, darker strategy spaces, with AI, AI itself and how fast, it is developing, but also how much we're using it for is going to illuminate some of those less than human based approaches. And I think it could be a really great, like you said, illuminator of where we aren't thinking humanly, right? Yeah. We are treating the whole thing like a set of numbers, which let's just be real. That has been corporate America since the beginning of time.
Right.
Any of us who have been in the human space, whether it's through coaching or HR or, just our nature and where we've landed within those places, knows that, that has been a challenge for a long time, is seeing people as human and not as a number, right? Not as just a worker bee that's
Yeah.
there to do a job. And so I think that this has always been going on. I'm wondering if this whole thing with the introduction of AI is going to just illuminate that more, because I believe as humans, what we're evolving into is also a deeper place to go back to what I was saying before about our natural tendencies. Just like AI can scan someone for micro expressions, we have that ability too.
Yeah.
You read people all the time, which is why I think a lot of people like to be in person with people, because otherwise we're just reading from here up,
Yeah.
and that's not all that's going on.
Yeah.
I mean, I am wearing pants though, just so. But I mean, it's
To clarify.
yeah, just to clarify what's going on. I've got a full outfit on, but it is that piece that I think that we're going to move more into what I like to look at as an integrity-based energy system, where we're all going to be knowing, like, somebody walks in the room with a bomb, everybody's going to know who that is and that there's something off.
Yeah.
And there's no more hiding. It's a world of transparency that we're moving into. And I think that's part of the reason why everything from this is mine and I don't want AI to steal it from me when it comes to like creations and that kind of thing, to I don't know enough about it, so I'm cautious. All of that is going to be challenged, because I think a lot of what underrides it is we're very nervous to be seen.
Yeah.
Partially because we don't know who we are, and we want to have control over that narrative. But I think as we just move into a world that's more transparency based, we're going to have to learn how to be seen. We are the fish in the fishbowl, and we still think that there's castles to hide behind and rocks and plants, and then there's nothing in there, And so I really think part of AI's purpose, beyond just all the things we've been talking about, is to introduce us into this time where we're going to need to get more comfortable being seen.
But, I'm going to build on that a little one, which is, I think there's also this kind of challenge to individuality, right? Like, I think, we're such a culture of, being individuals and thinking of ourselves as individuals and kind of individual performance and individual success. And, I think there is a little bit of this kind of challenge here of, like, we are sort of a community, a collective, like we interact with other things. Like, it's, we can't exist without other people. But it's going to make us more kind of interconnected and, interdependent in hopefully positive ways, but maybe not, right? Like it's an interesting kind of challenge to a lot of our, just kind of cultural models of, society and ourselves, but also from a business point of view. Like, we have, we're still very much about individual performance, individual recognition. I think we have not done, generally have not done a great job of looking at team performance and how to create good ecosystems and stuff like that. I'm kind of curious what you're seeing, like either what you're seeing or what you're suspecting AI, kind of challenging some of these things, or where this starts to create some friction with some of these models and what you see people doing. I don't know, Chad, if you've seen this come up at all.
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? If you look at we go back to the speed and play off of some of these themes we've talked about. If you look at the HBR, Harvard Business Review, put out a report about the top 3 use cases for AI right now. The first is help me organize my life. The second is be my therapist. And the third one is help me find purpose. Automation is further down on the list. Now, why is that? Well, individuals are the ones driving the adoption, right, of this technology, because hierarchically structured organizations have spent decades trying to break down silos, and they still can't get that done. So the individuals are moving at a speed that's going to create an opportunity to create much more agile organizations, right? People that can partner effectively, people that with other humans and with the technology. It's going to give the opportunity for people who couldn't code or build something in the past, the ability to create new things. So it's kind of becomes a, switch from those who do the building looking oddly at the ones with the ideas to, because it was always a limiting factor, to now, hey, the creative people, the idea people are the ones that are going to be able to do just as much stuff as before. And so when you look at it, there's an opportunity to reinvent what it means to structure an organization. So we drink our own Kool-Aid at DPMNX. And so our organization is set up as a collective. It's much more nuclear than it is hierarchical internally for us, but even in our partner ecosystems and other people that we're working with. And it really starts with evaluating the other people, that are coming to the table, to make sure that there's a shared vision and a shared basis in values of what we're trying to accomplish, before you let them, play in the sandbox, right, with us. So I think there's a huge opportunity, and we're seeing some of them do it, to recreate what it means to have a business, be in business, or perform, or how to structure them. And it'll be limited really by a lot of the human side of it. Can we all just get along, right, and figure it out?
I don't know. I'll throw out maybe a prediction or something on that. Like I could see in probably 3 to 5 years having some kind of leadership role of AI where you don't necessarily have a CEO anymore, right? Where, for bigger companies where the volume of data and, everything that's going on is that you have some kind of AI tool entity that is sucking all that stuff up and providing kind of high level guidance on organizational structure, strategy, priorities, and, obviously kind of, modeled or humans working with it. But because I think one of the huge challenges of most CEOs, like if you're, over 1,000 people, a company of over 1,000 people, the organizational complexity is horribly overwhelming for the human mind, right? Like you just can't, you certainly relationally can't, you can't have a relationship with 1,000 people, right? So at best, you've got your leadership team, and maybe the next level, it's maybe 50, maybe 75 people, and you have so much going on. It's like, part of me is like, yeah, I would be in a much better position to be able to actually assess all that and then look at the issues, identify the priorities, see the opportunities, and then partner with leaders, to be able to do that. But I don't know. I mean, that's also scary too, but I'm kind of curious, like, just because of some of the things we're dealing with, like where do you see potentially AI going with some of this stuff on the leadership side?
Well, honestly, I mean, I've been saying this for a little while, that I saw the hierarchical way of doing business going away, and we're going to see collaborative leadership where there's more than one person at the top, right? If we want to call it top, like it's more of a, we stand side by side, each knowing our skills and values. And I think going back to this idea of standing alone and standing out and differentiating ourselves as being our value. Our value is going to be how we fit into the greater, the greater purpose, the greater mission, and adding that impact that's necessary for that mission to be met. So I think for that reason, we do get to look at all of these things that we have placed value on, right? I mean, really, if we look at it since the beginning of time, we've been more human doings than human beings. We come out of the womb and we're told you're not valuable until you produce something valuable. And so we all hustle to produce valuable stuff so that we are valuable. And in reality, we have value aside from what we do. So I think what this does is it kind of challenges us to start to look at how we use everything from, like, if we're talking organizations again, how many organizations have a list of core values that most people, if I were to ask any of the senior leadership, they wouldn't know what they were. Is really to be true to what we say we're putting on our paperwork, right? If we say these are our values, like it's gonna go beyond just saying that we all agree on them. It's going to be an embodiment. Like my big thing is embodiment leadership, right? Are we embodying that which we say we are? In other words, are we being it, right? And so there is I love what you brought up about the HBR, focus, because it really is all personal. The answers to those top 3 are all personal. Nobody's saying anything, like you said, about using it to, better ourselves, from a value-driven standpoint. It's more, how do I figure myself out? How do I get on top of the living game? And that says a lot about where we are humanly in our evolution. And so where AI can be a tool to help us better understand ourselves so that we can lead it better, and it can be a part of what we're creating. I think that's really, again, the bigger look at partnership is, it's going to be playing both our mentor, our teacher, our parent, our friend, whatever it takes to get us to that place where we have more of a deeper understanding, but also ownership of our piece in all of it.
Yeah. Chad, are you working on a CEO AI replacement in the background there?
So no, not a CEO. We did do a very cool competition monitoring agent for a client
Mm-hmm.
that basically alerts them in real time to any competitor moves, assesses
Mm-hmm.
the threats against their business information, notifies the affected executives to give them information in much more real time, right?
Yeah.
But haven't gotten to the point yet where I don't know about anybody else. I don't know that I'm comfortable turning over the reins to the AI just yet. But
Yeah.
who knows? Who knows what's possible?
Yeah. Interesting space. So we're going to hit time here. I want to make sure people have contact information. Chad, if people want to get a hold of you, get more information about what you're doing, what's the best way to get that?
Yeah, hit the website, deephumanx.com. If you're looking for use cases, we've got some AI use cases on there that may be valuable. Send me an email, chad.sanderson@deephumanx.com, or ping me on LinkedIn.
Perfect. And Tracy, how do people get a hold of you?
Yeah, pretty much the same. I say theinnatecoach.com, great place to find out kind of what I'm up to and what I'm offering, but also too, and LinkedIn. That's usually where I spend most of my time when it comes to social media. So if you want to have a conversation or reach out, it'd be great to connect.
Awesome. And my contact information, it's easy, just bruce@eckfeldt.com, eckfeldt.com is website, and obviously LinkedIn as well. Tracy, Chad, thank you so much for taking the time today. It's been great. I really enjoyed the conversation. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, likewise.
And thank you to all the guests. Again, if you're on the replay, go ahead and leave comments. We'll check those in the coming weeks here. So both on YouTube and on LinkedIn, feel free to reach out to people. And thanks everyone for joining.